What's interesting is I come from a long line of tea drinkers. That's the way I like to say it. So tea has just been a big part of my life growing up. My parents were avid tea drinkers, and they used to tell me about how tea must be prepared and why and how. But an interesting thing happened with me just coming up with my Rakadi Go Soweto. We just used to blend tea. Like, we were like, let's do something different besides just doing regular black tea from that unknown name and the normal red bush tea, and like, let's blend them together and see what happens. So we'd have our magwinya, snookfish, acha, and blended tea, and we would just be like, oh my gosh, we're so sexy, right? And then I went on this journey. I moved from New York to Atlanta, and when I moved to Atlanta, I just really started, it's like something happened at midnight one night when I just literally feel like the Most High, the Creator, was like, you will move this tea as a movement. And that's what happened, actually. I lived in Atlanta, and I started a really huge movement in Atlanta called the Zulu tea ceremony. So I did talks at universities, I did tea ceremonies and everything. So the basis of it is blended teas. There's a whole planet full of teas. Yeah. But if we're to be clear about what tea is specifically, it is actually a plant that comes from the Camellia sinensis leaf. That is what is considered tea in the tea industry. So from there you have your white tea, your green teas, your oolongs, your black teas.
Tell me about, you mentioned oolong. I've been wondering about oolong tea.
Oolong is dope. Oolong is a really awesome tea, especially for the ladies and the gents out there that are interested in weight loss. Oolong is great. If you go to, like, you know, proper Far East Asian restaurants, namely Chinese restaurants, and you see them drinking tea after a meal, for the most part, they'll be drinking oolong. The reason why is it's a stronger green tea. It's actually, like, processed a little bit longer than green tea, but it's lighter than black tea. So it's in between green and black. And it's really good because when you drink it warm, it burns the lipids. It sort of breaks down the lipids from the meal that you just consumed. Wow. So it really helps with weight loss in that sense. Wow. It's great stuff. Wow. So that is what tea is, guys. Tea is actually a plant that comes, the beverage that we drink that's from Camellia sinensis. Anything outside of that is considered a tisani. So that's your rooibosses, your chamomile, your peppermints, all that other good stuff that we drink.
So all this time you're saying, I'm drinking tea, I'm having tea. Well,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I've learned. But this is quite interesting because I think a lot of where we want to go, this is my vision as I sit here, and I want, what I do with lifestyle is for people to know that there's a whole world out there. You know, when people say, commonly when people say, I went out, I had fun. Yeah. You should know that there's an equation of music, alcoholic beverages, and others. But you can go out to other events and have fun when you get to, like, you're talking about tea. I've been accused of what now, the ages are going, that's why you're talking about tea. But, like, tea is such...
It's so diverse. I mean, it's really diverse. I mean, my son was drinking tea from the time he was a really small guy and loving it. So it just depends on how you prepare it and how you present it. And that's what I think is very unique about the Zen Zulu tea ceremony. It's that we are engaging in tea in a whole nother way. It's definitely not your high tea. It's much different from your sort of European perspective of tea drinking.
With the Zulu bit, I'm hoping it has an African... Here we are, we're in Africa, drinking tea our way. Yes. Because I think the African identity, because one of the things, you know, that was when I celebrating 50 years of independence.
Yes,
I mean, and we, you know, it's to find unique ways of who we are. Exactly. Like the other day I went and I remember how my grandfather used to take his tea when we're talking about tea, you know, sosara, porete, sepet, or I think, what do you call it? There's this cup, I need to remember the name, but there's this metal cup that they used to use. Yeah, we borrowed the word from Afrikaans, but there's another word, yeah, kopi. But anyway, I'll remember it and I'll mention it. But those are unique things to us as Africans. This is how we are. But I think you get that mug, you're sipping. Yeah,
I know.
You know.
That's very interesting because, like, I try and tell, like, my son and, like, you know, assistants that work with me, like, I don't drink tea from big coffee mugs. This isn't a filling station, you know? So, and there's... I mean, one thing that's really interesting about tea is there is really a culture, and there are cultures that are ascribed to tea, and that's what's different from tea as opposed to any other beverage in the world. Mind you, it is the second most consumed beverage in the world after water. Wow. Do remember that, yes. So it's very interesting. Like, if you notice, we don't have, like, a way we take water, or even coffee. Great beverage. I love it, you know? I love coffee on the streets because I know I'm not going to get a real proper cup outside the house, right?
Yeah.
So with coffee, you just have like these big mugs. I mean, in the 90s, there was this whole cappuccino movement where they were like bigger than my face, right? And so with tea, it's like wherever you go in the world, you will find that these are my teacups. It is tea time. There's no other time. There's no orders time. Sorry for naming a brand, but there's no squash time, you know? So tea renders a certain respect that other beverages don't. And I wish to engage people and invite them into the Zen Zulu tea world, because we are not only introducing tea from an indigenous perspective, but we're also engaging an atmosphere and an environment that deems itself to be beautiful and definitely coming from an African perspective. So when we talk about the name in itself, I'm going to be honest, I was really intimidated to break through. Zen Zulu did really well in Atlanta, like I said, but I was afraid, like, I'm in Botswana, and, you know, I'm Tswana, what are people going to think about the Zulu thing, even though everybody's company is named in English, but I just felt people would be harsh on that.
Sometimes you are like that, you're like, you know, say, but
I wanted to explain that, take time to explain it. Zen is a word that we're seeing a lot lately, like, I feel so zenned out. But what Zen means is to really sort of go within yourself and learn and really listen to yourself. So if we have doctrines and scriptures that we abide by, those things are sort of like templates that help us with our lives. But we also have to find at some point a time to zone in and listen. And so that's what Zen does, and I really appreciate that meaning, as well as it rendering enlightenment within ourselves. And Zulu is, I'm not talking about a group of people in KZN. I'm talking about Amazulu, the heavens, the celestial bodies. Because we're always talking about heaven, and we're always talking about the universe as if it's so far from us. But we are in the heavens, and we are spinning every day at an incredible pace on this planet. And our lives on a microcosm, like our daily lives as moms, dads, students, it's crazy, it's hectic, and it's just getting more and more hectic. Technology is requiring so much of our attention. So this ceremony allows us to slow down and really contemplate our proportion in the universe.
In this fast-paced world, you know what? I'm looking at tea in a whole different light. Like, tea for me was just the cup I take in the morning, get my system in place, you know, do what I gotta do.
Right.
But as you're speaking, like, there's a whole lot to tea. A culture. A certain atmosphere there is to it. A certain, like you're talking about tea time. That tells you it renders a certain respect.
Yes.
Are we giving tea that respect it deserves?
Right, are we?
Yeah, because...
Respect your tea.
Because I'm thinking, you know, I'll take my cup of tea, maybe on the net, doing something. But remember, as I was talking about traditionally how our grandparents, our parents, they would be communicating with one another, if anything. Or they'll be sitting at their own leisure, thinking about whatever it is. And you're talking about Zen, how you go within, seek the answers.